is going on, everybody? What is going on? The Catch Fam, my name is John Dawson, and in today's video, we will be going over 3 streaming quarterback options and 3 streaming tight end options for week 2 of the 2023 fantasy football season. If you guys are new to the channel, this is all we do here all year round: redraft, dynasty, and best ball fantasy football content. So if you're into that, be sure to subscribe on the way in. But more importantly, please get in the comment sections down below any fantasy football questions you guys have, whatever you guys need: starts, sits, trades, waiver wire, injuries, whatever it may be. Let me know down below and I will get back to you as soon as I possibly can. But without further ado, let's not waste any more time. Let's hop into today's video. All right, so in last week's video, we talked about Jared Goff, Brock Purdy, and Jordan Love. We made some pretty good calls. But guess what? The worst out of the 3 was Jared Goff at 16 fantasy points. And overall, I still like Jared Goff going into week 2. He gets the Seattle Seahawks. This is a team that Matthew Stafford just threw the football all over. This is a team that just got ran all over by the Rams offense as well. And listen, maybe we could see a capped ceiling for Jared Goff going into week 2 because we know this Lions run unit is quite good. But I also think ultimately maybe we see a game plan where Jared Goff needs to throw the football a bit more, because I do think Seattle is actually going to keep this game relatively competitive. I think coming off of that week 1 loss, they're going to be throwing the football more themselves. And I do think that is the weaker part of this Lions defense is the secondary, albeit it looked pretty good against Kansas City Chiefs in week 1. At the same time, the Chiefs dropped a lot of potential open passes. So I do think that the run defense for the Lions is better overall, and I do think that could force the Seahawks to throw the football more and keep this game more competitive overall coming off of that loss. So Goff, 253 passing yards in week 1, 1 passing touchdown. I think he improves on those numbers and gets us closer to 20 fantasy points. I don't think he's a crazy high ceiling, but I also think he's still available in enough leagues that if you're in a pinch, maybe you had Aaron Rodgers, whatever it may be, that Goff is a good streaming quarterback moving into week 2. All right, I would totally love to just list Brock Purdy as well as Jordan Love going into week 2, but I don't want to keep the same list as week 1. Plus, I mean, those guys as well as Jared Goff did get picked up in a lot of leagues, so let's try and switch it up a bit. Let's go with Mac Jones against the Miami Dolphins in week 2. Do I love this start? No, but we're looking at streaming option, guys. We're not looking at the best available options. We're looking at guys that you can literally go and pick up right now. Mac Jones rostered in 22% of leagues according to the Sleeper app. He had 25 fantasy points in week 1, 54 passing attempts. Maybe a little bit of a different offensive look this year, of course, with new offensive coordinator, but 316 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, and a pick. And now he gets the Miami Dolphins, who, I mean, this defense did not look good at all week 1 against the run or against the pass against the Chargers. So should be a good game script here. Should be another good opportunity for Mac Jones, who, started slow but really picked it up against the Philadelphia Eagles in week 1. So Mac Jones, if you're desperate enough, maybe you're in a super flex format, maybe at Aaron Rodgers, whatever it may be, I do think Mac Jones is worth rolling out in week 2 if you simply do not have better options. All right, like I said, we are switching it up. I'm going with Baker Mayfield. I woke up feeling dangerous today. 16 fantasy points in week 1 against Minnesota. Not the best performance, but still 2 passing touchdowns, 21 completions off of 34 attempts, and 173 passing yards. We would like to see that a little bit higher to get us a little bit of a higher ceiling overall. I still think he's a floor play, but man, the Chicago Bears defense looked abysmal to say the least in week 1. We mentioned Jordan Love earlier. Well, he balled out against them in his first start with the Packers going into the year. And I think Baker Mayfield, he looked good in his first start for the Buccaneers this year, is going to have another good game in week 2. Once again, not expecting a crazy high ceiling, but I think if you're in a bad enough position, Baker rostered in 17% of leagues, I think Baker is worth rolling out. Moving into week 2, I mean, proceed with caution, but I think he's got enough weapons. It's a good enough matchup. Baker gets you a safe floor as we approach the coming week. And moving on to the tight end position, let's go with Hunter Henry, a very hot waiver wire ad. So kind of check. I mean, he might not be available in your league, but according to Sleeper, he's still only rostered in 34% of leagues. He gets the Miami Dolphins. Just talked about this defense being very poor in week 1. I don't think that gets any better moving in to week 2. And I mean, the Patriots, we just talked about it with Mac Jones. They were putting up some points, playing pretty well offensively. I don't think that's going to stop in week 2. When we look at this Miami Dolphins offensive unit, like, yeah, the Patriots, a good defensive unit, but this Miami Dolphins team is going to put up points on a weekly basis. They are going to challenge the opposing team to throw the football week in and week out. So as long as the game script stays competitive, which I don't see any reason why it won't, Hunter Henry's going to be involved. 6 targets, 5 receptions, 56 receiving yards, 11.2 yards per catch, and a touchdown in week 1, 16.6 fantasy points in full PPR. No reason to not roll Hunter Henry out in week 2 if you need an option at the tight end position. All right, second overall, I'm going to go with Hayden Hurst because he's still only rostered in 33% of fantasy leagues. I mean, we just talked about Hunter Henry. At the moment, he's the tight end 1 in fantasy, and Hayden Hurst is the tight end 2 in fantasy. I mean, don't get me wrong. We had a lot of major tight ends play poorly in week 1. We had a lot of those guys not play at all in week 1. So this is probably going to drastically change, but you know, Henry and Hurst are both available in enough leagues that they need to be considered. Hurst looked like an option for Bryce Young in terms of a security blanket throughout that game against the Falcons. I don't think that's going to change in a much tougher matchup against the Saints in week 2. This is a home game for Carolina, so hopefully that helps. But this is a tough Saints matchup, a tough Saints defense. I want to put that out there. That could be good in a sense that maybe that the Panthers are in a position where they need to throw the football more. But it also could be bad. This could be a game where Bryce Young struggles. So I think maybe that's why we haven't seen Hurst get picked up in as many leagues when he had 15 fantasy points in week 1, 7 targets, 5 receptions, 41 receiving yards, and a touchdown. So I still like Hurst going into week 2. He's a player who should be available in a lot of leagues. I mean, I've seen him. He didn't get picked up in a lot of leagues that I play him. He might not be necessary for every team, but don't have better options. I definitely think Hayden Hurst is a viable streaming option as we approach week 2. All right, next on the list, we've got Zach Ertz going up against the New York Giants in week 2. This is a home game for the Cardinals. I'm not really expecting fireworks here. I do think the Giants will bounce back and ultimately play better than the Cardinals, but that could be a good thing for Zach Ertz in this game script because then the Cardinals will be playing from behind, needing to throw the football more. And, you know, they didn't play awful in week 1 against Washington. I mean, it was Washington, but like, yeah, I'm still not very hopeful for this Cardinals offensive unit. But Zach Ertz, 77% snap share, 10 targets, 6 receptions, 21 receiving yards. That got you 8.10 fantasy points. Almost had a touchdown as well. And it looked like Josh Dobbs really was just looking for Zach Ertz on a majority of the plays. Like, he had that confidence in him. He felt good looking his way. So I think that continues as long as Josh Dobbs is the quarterback we can expect Zach Ertz to be involved on a weekly basis. If you don't have better options, there's nothing else out there. I do think Zach Ertz is worth a shot moving in to week 2. And that'll do it for today's video. If you guys did find the content today helpful in any way or enjoyable, or if you just want more free fantasy football content in your algorithm all year long, Redraft Dynasty and Best Ball, be sure to subscribe on the way out. That is all we do here. But more importantly, get in the comments down below, guys, any start-sit questions that you guys have, waiver questions, injury questions, roster reviews, whatever you guys need pertaining to the 2023 fantasy football season, please let me know down below. I'll get back to you guys as soon as I possibly can. And with that, I will say thank you guys so much for watching and or listening. And remember, you saw it here on The Catch.